All right, we are off and running. My name is Jay Berman. It is the New York Giants Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. The Giants face the Packers today. We'll see if there was any home cooking.
I'm Mark Collins, two-time Super Bowl champion. Wash, rinse, repeat.
I am Brandon Olson, zero-time Super Bowl champion, and I am tired of watching this team play that way.
Let's go, Big Blue. It's the New York Giants squad. Everything New York Giants every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the G-Men. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. The Giants Squad Show starts now.
All right, we are off and running alongside Mark and Brandon. My name is Jay. Once again, a New York Giants Squad Show after a loss. 27-20 to the Packers. It was an interesting game. The offense looked actually pretty good. That being said, the results are still there. They're losses, Mark.
Yeah, it's how can I start this? You look at this game and you look at the rosters and you look at both sides of the ball, offense and defense, Giants and the Packers, right? The side of the ball on the Giants with the star players out was more productive than the Giants defense with all the stars active and ready to go. And it still scored 20 points. But it's a loss. And on the bigger scale, I mean, the Giants, I was expecting a blowout. I did not expect it to be this close, but it was. But the Giants offense showed up, and the Giants defense, when they had the chance to put it away, didn't do it, and we're still talking about a loss.
Amazing. Brandon, the Vegas number was 7, and of course it lands right on 7. And despite the fact that the Giants were within a touchdown today, I think they actually got lucky keeping it this close. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. There is nothing that Jameis Winston likes more than throwing the ball directly at defenders. There's nothing he loves more. And look, we knew that. Like that's what Jameis is. Like he's been that since Florida State. He's still that. He's going to be really aggressive as a passer. It's going to lead to points. It's going to lead to interceptions. And they finally got bit by it very late in the game. But look, the opening drive, he threw 2 passes that got tipped by Packers defenders. Mm-hmm. Like he should have thrown picks earlier. It is what it is at that point. Like, again, I'm fine with Jameis as QB1 while Jackson Dart's sidelined because I think that Jameis he gives your offense more explosive ability. And this offense, again, it wasn't clean. It wasn't particularly fun to watch either. It wasn't sexy, but it was effective. Like they were marching up and down field. They had some things and the wind absolutely played a part in that, with the kicking games just being by both teams completely thrown off by the wind. I think that it was kind of what I would expect from a Jameis Winston start there. It wasn't anything crazy, but at some point I would like to see more than 20 points scored. That would be great. But hey, I mean, this is what it is. Jameis, gunslinger, didn't take the top off the defense very much today, but I think that was more so because of the wind would have just carried that ball anywhere.
Interesting times. Now, obviously, we'll get to Jameis and his stats and his performance, but let's start with Mike Kafka, Mark. There were some questionable challenges early. I actually didn't like the first one, and I thought he should have challenged the second one. Be that as it may, your thoughts on Mike Kafka's first game as a head coach?
To be expected, not knowing what the hell to do. Well, that is. It's true because he's never been in that situation before. So I'm not going to rain on this parade. I would take it a step further. Some of the officiating, again, some of the questionable catches, non-catches, that kind of stuff, that bothered me. But to answer your question about the challenges, that's something you got to live through and go through to know when to call them and when not to call them. But overall, I mean, the game plan itself, with the weapons not being there, so the Giants could really compete to win, have a legitimate shot to win, I think they did okay. It came down to a few plays. It always does. But once again, based to answer your question, Jay, is it a passing grade? No, because they lost. But I'm not going to rain on his parade totally.
All right, Brandon, your thoughts on Kafka. Obviously, challenges aside, because I didn't agree with either of them. That being said, we've declared that he has some work to do with the challenges, but big picture, your thoughts on Kafka's day, especially play calling.
Yeah, I feel like he coached it like a first-time head coach. Like he made some decisions that I think I would disagree with. I know that there were plenty of people that liked the Giants opting to receive the kick after winning the coin toss. I don't. I'm a firm believer of always defer that. Just because, that could change the tide. Like the Packers had the ball before halftime. They score 1-score game, they get the ball back, they score again, it's a 2-score game, and this team's not coming back from a deficit like that. I understand saying that you want to start with the ball and set the tone offensively. You can still do that if you aren't the team that starts the game with the ball. 0-0, 7-0, your script's not changing that early in the game because of it. But I think that play calling was trying to make the most of a tough situation, right? Like we could talk about how the run game averaged, 4 yards per carry. Most of those by a huge margin, most of those yards came after contact. It was guys fighting through. I don't know why. I will take this shot at people. I don't know why the commentary team insisted on talking about how great this offensive line is. I don't think they're awful, but I don't think that they're a great offensive line at that. If they were, your running backs would need to have 75% of their yards after contact. But overall, I thought it was, Mike Kafka learning, and that's what it's going to be, because this is also the first time he's ever been a play caller without a head coach that is maybe dictating some of the decision making. We saw Mike Kafka be really aggressive on third down today, which, by the way, I love it. I'm all for being really aggressive on fourth down. I'm all for being really aggressive on fourth down. You don't know if he would have had the freedom. Like that could have been how he wants to operate always. He could just always say, hey, I want to be really aggressive on fourth down at all times. I will take this to college football for a second. Lane Kiffin does the same thing, being really aggressive on fourth down. And I think he's one of the few coaches, and I think Mike Kafka might fall in that category as well, of when you look at the analytics and it's like, oh, your win percentage is better if you punt, your win percentage is better if you go for it. I think that there's some coaches who are now starting to go, if punting doesn't give me a significant advantage, I'm going to go for it. It's no longer just, whichever one gives me a better chance. It's if punting doesn't give me a significant advantage, I'm going for it. And I think Mike Kafka might be that guy. And I'm okay with the uber aggressive fourth down mentality.
Sometimes, Brandon, it's not about the significant part of going for it on fourth down. Because if you go for it on fourth down, you got the ball on your own 10-yard line. Well, you can't do that. It's got to be a point where it's going to be a change of yardage, field position, number one. Secondly, I would go back to when the Giants won the toss and got the ball, they scored on that drive. That's effing huge. So I agree with that. He made a statement. He went with it. They capitalized. They got it. I think when the Giants scored on that drive by winning the toss and taking the ball and scoring, that sent a message to the Packers. This is what we're going to do. We're going to dictate what we want to do, and you got to come beat us. Though they did, but notice that whole first half, it was nip and tuck because the best team on that field, we all know, was the Packers. They didn't show it until the latter parts of the game. So by winning the toss, taking the ball and capitalizing and scoring on it, set the tone for the offense and for the defense, and it sent a message to the Packers that this is going to be an all-day deal. You gotta beat us. They did, but I like the tone that Kafka took by taking the ball and capitalize on it.
All right. Tracy, Singletary, and obviously there were a couple of scrambles from Winston, but point being 38 runs, Brandon, 29 passes. So the balance was actually pretty good. I don't know the last time the Giants had 40 rushes in a game. It probably hasn't been any time recently. Brandon?
Yeah, no, tough to do that when you're getting blown out left and right. So really tough to run the football unless you're just, rolling over there. But no, I like the run. I do wish like this would be a game where I'd go, like imagine if you had Cam Scatterbo there. That'd be really fun to watch with this offensive game plan. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a team that, and it's what they've had to do all season long, pretty much since Malik Neighbors got hurt. It's been, we need to fight and scratch and claw for every single yard. And my thing with that is like that's great if you can score at a high clip. But if you're not scoring at a high clip, if it's not consistently effective, then it's not. I mean, you look at the drives that they had today, and it was long touchdown drive to start the game, 3 and out, long touchdown drive, halftime, long drive where they turned the ball over on downs, and then a long touchdown drive, pick. Like if you're going to do this scratch and claw, I do think you need a couple more drives that aren't just 3 and outs, because if you're doing this scratch and claw, like part of that is wearing them down, and you're not wearing them down by going 3 plays and then punting the ball. But I don't know how sustainable it is when you're the worst team out of the bunch, which the Giants are going to be the worst team in most of these matchups that they play for the remainder of the season, as they have been for the first stretch of the season. But it's what you have to do when you're at this disadvantage. Like you have to go out there and fight and scratch and claw when you can't create explosive plays. That's the only play you have. That's it. Like that's the only thing that this Giants offense has right now is just muddying everything up and trying to sneak out a close win like they tried to do today.
Well, they have nobody. So that's the game plan. When you don't have all your weapons, this is what you got, right? So, not unless some miraculous star athlete comes back on, receiver or running back, you've got to try to minimize the damage or whatever to keep a game close and to try to sneak a win. Because we all know that the Giants are not going to blow anybody out on offense. And secondly, we're finding out, I guess me a little bit later than you guys, that they can't really stop anybody to close out a game when they really have to, which was another chance they could have done today, but didn't do it. So this is the landscape we're living in, and we got to do it for the rest of the season.
It's really interesting. There's some interesting stats here, because if I told you this after the game and you hadn't watched, you might have thought differently as far as the final result. Brandon, 4 double-digit play drives. Again, I don't know the last time that happened, but it seems like it was a while ago.
Yeah, I'm torn on that actually, because it's impressive to sustain drives that long, but it also means that's because you cannot generate an explosive play to save your life. Like you don't have those 12 play drives if you're getting 30-yard plays here and there. Like that doesn't happen. But it is, I do give this team credit for fighting and having those big long drives against a great Packers defensive front, great Packers defense really overall. Again, the 4th down decision making that went into this, it was clear at times too that they were like, hey, we're going to run the football here on 3rd and 5 just to give us a better chance to go for it on 4th down instead of just saying, hey, 3rd and 5, we're going to try to get this all right here. So it's an interesting approach that this team has to take right now. And I do give Mike Kafka credit, because it's not an easy game to coach when you're the clearly less talented team. especially when you have the weather conditions that went into this one. But he made the most of the opportunity that he got here.
All right, we'll take our first break of the afternoon. Then we'll focus in on the defense, which again held the Packers to 27 points, but it comes in a loss. We'll do that next. All right, let's tell you about Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is, you guessed it, no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees. All right, as we continue, I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number in contacts. I love that you are getting the same quality service you had before, but for a fraction of the price. The setup is super easy. You kept your number and then you're running in minutes. Ready to say yes to saying no? Well, make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Upfront payment of $45 required, which is the equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigs on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, we are back. As we said, it comes after a Giant loss. What else is new? 27-20, the final score. As for the defense, Mark, your thoughts big picture. Now, again, the Packers come in struggling on offense. They held them to 27 points. Your thoughts on the defense?
They did enough to win, but they also did more to lose. They had a couple of plays they could have made, especially the biggest one we talk about. To close it out, they got the Packers in the 3rd and 10. And all they had to do was make the play, knock the ball down, flat, mistimed this jump, got a 32-yard reception, and they didn't close the deal. Now, we talked about earlier how the Giants had 4 drives with double-digit numbers and drives, right? You would think that would be that the Packers would have done to the Giants defense. It was just the opposite. I do think that there are no changes going to be made on defense. From a coordinator standpoint or player standpoint, that's what you got. That is what you got. But they did play well enough against, yes, a struggling Packer team that was averaging, 10 points a game over the last couple of weeks. Gave up 27 and still had a chance to win it all but one play. That's still not good enough. You know, I don't know what else to say about this team other than they are not good enough to overcome the stats that they're showing throughout the league.
27-20, Brandon, but on both sides of the ball, the Packers, hands like feet. They could not catch anything today. So it easily could have been a 2-touchdown game, maybe a 3-touchdown game. Again, the Giants were lucky in that phase of the game.
Yeah, if the Packers on either side of the ball could catch literally anything, then this game would have been brutal. Jameis would have had 3, 4
At least.
Yeah, it would have been really bad. Romeo Doubs would have had 9 catches for 100 and how many yards. But, you know, I mean, that's also, I feel like we can look at that and say that's a bad spot to be in. You know, like you don't want to say, oh, because they dropped the ball, this, that, the third, but also that's part of football. That's the thing about football is so much of it is decision, or so much of the decisions are process oriented, but you're judging based off the results, right? Like guys were open. You could be mad the guys were open, but they didn't catch the ball. And so you go, all right, we're going to flush that and they have to find another down. And that's what the Giants did, right? Like Jameis, he clearly didn't give a damn that they were dropping picks. He's like, all right, they didn't pick it, so I'm going to throw it again. He didn't care about that. The Giants, you got bailed out with some drops. That's football, though. Like that's what football is at this point. Guys drop the ball. Great. Chalk it up as a little win column for you there, and try to be better next time. Unfortunately, they weren't better next time because guys were still just open. They just started catching the football for the Packers. But yeah, I think that this Giants secondary, I still think that they don't know how to make plays on the ball, which is what they like Mark mentioned. You're not going to see a big change probably coordinator wise or player wise. Like there are some things that you're not going to change. There are some things that can't change, and I feel pretty confident that when some DBs have played in the NFL for years and they don't start turning their head around to make a play, that's not all of a sudden happening. That's not something that they all of a sudden start doing. I think that they made some poor plays on the ball. I think that I also will say that I think part of it, like part of the wind did screw up some of the timing on those. Like I think Dane Belton, if that wasn't as windy and that ball was ripped the way that Dane Belton probably thought it was going to be, maybe he doesn't get the PI that he got near the end zone.
Yeah.
And so I do think that in that instance, yeah, it impacted a lot. And I'm not using the wind to excuse a single thing. Honestly, without the wind, Giants probably lose by more. But I do think that there are some things you could say, all right, like this, there were some environmental factors that are not usually a part of this game that they got you today. Whether they helped you or hurt you, they were a part of the game today. And that's just something you got to just chalk it up, move on, move forward, and hope that you don't play in a game with that kind of wind again, where there's, 40-mile-per-hour gusts during the game.
Mark, Jordan Love threw 24 passes. They ran the ball 23 times. Now, we know how bad the Giants' run defense was coming in. Are you surprised that they were so balanced? I just figured they were going to run the ball the entire game.
I did too. And the reason they were balanced, and I thought it'd be easily 2-1, 3-1 run the pass.
Yeah.
The reason they probably ran the ball was probably because, or made it more balanced, because they felt they could do it. As Brandon mentioned, and we watched the game, there was a lot of drops in there. And if those catches are made, you never know that would have tilted more pass around, vice versa. You never know. But they played a balanced game. It was methodical, but very productive. And it was enough to keep the Giants pretty much off balance. And once again, they still ran the ball predominantly to their right side of the Giants' left side of the defense, and had some good success. And as I said before, this is a copycat league, and every team would do that until the Giants figure a way to stop it. And they haven't stopped it yet in Week 11. Something tells me they won't do it in Week 12 as well.
Interesting. Let's focus on individual players now. We saw Dex, at least for a few plays, look like the old Dex. We also saw Abdul Carter, who still does not have a full sack yet. And by the way, he didn't play the first series. We still don't know why. Perhaps disciplinary reasons. Who knows? We'll probably find out at some point. But Dex and Abdul, your thoughts, Brandon?
Yeah, would have liked to see someone helping Brian Burns more than we saw. I really thought Dex was going to have a big game with Sean Ryan getting the start at center with Elton Jenkins out for probably the year. But just didn't happen. And Dex also had the offside to start the game, basically, when Ryan had Sean Ryan, just to let him know that he was there. Would have thought there'd be a bigger game, but also the Packers, a lot of their passes, and I don't think we have the numbers for that right now, but I do feel like a lot of what the Packers did in the passing game was off of play action, getting Jordan Love moving out of the pocket. When Malik Willis was in there, getting Malik Willis, moving him out of the pocket. And so when you take guys away from the interior, like Dex isn't chasing these athletic quarterbacks down like that. Like he's not Jordan Love and Malik Willis. He's not catching them. And so I do think that the Packers did a really good job of moving the pocket consistently, of getting whoever was in at quarterback at the time, getting them protected and out in space. They did a good job of having multiple extra blockers at times. They had Emmanuel Wilson was in there. John Fitzpatrick played a ton for them at tight end, and he's a glorified O-line 6 at this point. I mean, they threw him the ball and he dropped it right away. Like he's basically a tackle. And so they did a really good job of just trying to keep everything clean. And also, I will say, I do think that part of why the run-pass split was so even for the Packers is Josh Jacobs got hurt. Josh Jacobs was averaging 6 yards a pop when he got hurt. If he stayed in, he was probably going to keep that up and probably increase it even more based on, anything we've seen this season from the Giants defense. And so I do think that was part of it when it came down to it. It was just saying, hey, the hammer is out. This is one of the few offenses that they don't rotate their backs frequently at all. And so that was a wrench in their plan, I guess, going into it. But yeah, this is a defense that thought we might see more considering the injuries on the Packers offensive line. Didn't see it partially because maybe they just didn't perform that way, but also because the Packers did actively try to scheme around those things.
In addition to not getting a big stop late, which we all agree would have helped them win a game that they haven't done in so long. That being said, Mark, the red zone defense, 4 possessions for Green Bay today, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was watching the game with my son, and I'm calling plays. I'm going, they got to check out. They got to either pass man coverage off. If it's man coverage, you call combo if it's corner and safety or 2 corners, or you call with the linebacker, you call what we call it banjo. You got to make those calls pre-snap because if it's man coverage, just in case these things come out to play. They did none of that. And I saw because I saw the corner stay on the receiver, and the safety didn't get bumped by the receiver and try to go out. You got to switch that stuff off. They didn't switch it off. It's called combo. Switch it. They didn't do it. That tells me either A, they're not being coached it, and B, they're definitely not being coached it. So that's what you get in all those aspects. And when teams know that you're not checking things off or you're not communicating and you're a strictly man team in the red zone, you're going to go 4 for 4 in the red zone, and what the Packers did today.
Yeah, it's funny. We haven't mentioned Shane Bowen until right now, and we had a section of every show we've done dedicated to killing Shane Bowen, just because he's been obviously head of the unit that we're not happy with. That being said, there was no mention of Shane Bowen today, and Brandon, I'm kind of relieved that we didn't have to discuss him today, despite the fact that we know he's gone.
Yeah, that is what it is. He's just going to keep coaching this defense. We're going to keep letting that one ride. Again, I do think that part of it, and I agree, change needs to be made, but I do think that part of it is just outside of the stars in that defense, there's a whole bunch of people that probably shouldn't be playing starter snaps in the NFL right now. Bobby Okereke looked better than I think he's looked for a while. But even then, this is what it is, right? And then, luckily for us, we've got Joe Shane back as a general manager leading this hire because he's done a stellar job to this point for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's do that. Mark, tell me right now, why on earth Shane Bowen kept his job, despite the fact that the Giants defense played hard. They're just not any good. Why did he keep his job? Why is he keeping his job?
Because on defense, it's not going to get better. You not unless you shrink the play calling, the coverages, go 2 or 3 base coverages, and let these players be comfortable in just playing 2 or 3 coverages. Because if you expand that playbook, the miscommunication part, especially in the red zone or whatever comes up, it's like in sales, right? If you give people too many options, guess what? They take them. You got to limit their options. You choose 1, 2, or 3. That's it. There's no 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because that adds to the thought process, and you never make the right decision. 2 or 3 coverages. Make it simple. The red zone, we got 2 coverages. It's man or zone. If they give a 3-1 set in this bunch, we're playing a zone. Those are two options. They're not doing that. So that's why you don't get a change. And defense is easy to change. But we won't do that because it's simplistic. We can make that change mentally in the locker room and go, hey guys, 2 or 3 coverages. On offense, you can't do that. Too many moving parts. So that's why the offense changed from Kafka being the head coach and delegating the change of the offense to the play calling to a new OC. In defense, it doesn't happen. Just shrink the playbook. So Bowen's not going anywhere. If it were me, if they listen to a guy like me, Carl Banks, Pepper Johnson, Harry Carson, shrink Bill Belichick, shrink the friggin' playbook. Make it simple so the guys can play harder, pin the ears back, and just play ball.
All right, we'll take our second break as we are halfway home on the New York Giants Squad Show. We saw a person today on the field. His name is Isaiah Hodgins. We haven't seen him in a while, and I'm curious why that is. We'll discuss that next. All right, let's talk to you about FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's focus in on those receivers. A sight for sore eyes, Isaiah Hodgins, who's only been on the team, this iteration of the team, for 3 days, but 5 catches for 57. Brandon, it was weird because, and I'm not the only one, a lot of people are thinking, why didn't they sign this guy a month ago?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking, why didn't they sign this guy a month ago? One of the things that I was thinking that whole drive is he came in off another team's practice squad and was immediately the best receiver out there for this offense, which is one of the reasons that I am in favor of replacing Joe Shane. There's Malik Neighbors. Wandale's a great chain mover underneath, but I don't think he's going to be given the opportunity to do anything else. But Isaiah Hodgins came in and played better than we've seen Darius Slayton at times, then we've seen Jalen Hyatt, then we've seen Bo Collins, then we've seen anybody. Isaiah Hodgins just walked in and was better than that, was easily the best receiver. And look, part of that, I will say, could be attributed to Jameis Winston actually making the throws, right? Like navigating the pocket, making the throw on the I think the Packers were in quarters and Hodgins ran the dig right behind the linebackers. And part of that does go to the credit of Jameis Winston for making that throw where Russ, I don't think, would have made that throw. And Jackson Dart might have made the throw. He might have taken off running instead too, also by that time. And so I do think that part of it goes to Jameis Winston making the plays and maybe making Isaiah Hodgins look a bit better and just giving him the football. But I do think that there's too many parts of this team where I look at it and I go, why has this been this way for this year, for this many years when there's potentially a fix? Like Isaiah Hodgins coming in and immediately being one of the best contributing receivers on the team, the best contributing receiver on the team. Why wasn't he here earlier, especially when he had familiarity with this staff? Not the quarterback room, but with this staff. And, before the break, he talked about why do you keep Joe Shane? I don't know the answer to it. I will tell you that cornerback room has sucked the entirety of the time that he's been there and has not fixed it. And to his credit, he's tried to fix it. But the fact that he's tried to fix it and it's failed every time, I think is indicative of anything we need to know about that.
All right, Mark, I just wanted to ask you about, as we continue with Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt somehow, despite the fact that he only had 2 catches for 18 yards, was actually noticeable for a few plays today, which I mean, he may never have been noticeable, but the fact that they need receivers badly, Hodges and Hyatt could provide the help they need.
Well, they have nobody else. I mean, hell. Hyatt's been there forever, and Hodges just got there. So they could have rolled in anybody and lined them up. I don't know if they've been productive, but they got to line up people in uniforms. Listen, Hodges is just walked in off the street, basically. And he's your best receiver today. Tells you a lot about what the Giants are dealing with offensively as weapons. Basically walking in off the street, playing street ball, and run by the car, run the post, and making plays. So, that's where we are. How do you move forward with it? And we move on with the general manager and everything else remains to be seen. But this is it, man. This is what you got to work with. Next week, who's going to be the star receiver? Who's going to step up? Who's going to ring the bell to be I'm the guy to whatever? I don't know. But one thing I do know is this, and it's not flashy, it's not cute, it's not explosive plays. This team's been scoring points, and I bet you we all would pitch a bitch if they were scoring 10 points a game, 7 points. We'll be mad as hell. This team is scoring, I think, averaging a little bit over 20 points. And they're playing good enough to stay in the game. I don't know about winning. It's not winning football, but it's giving them a chance to win. It always comes down to, so far, the last maybe 6 games, a couple of plays, a collapse on offense or defense, or a bonehead coaching mistake. So no matter who the receivers are, who's there, who's missing, whatever, they're pretty much still in the realm of winning some of these games.
Let's focus in on the running game real quick, Brandon. I just wanted to mention, or at least get into, Tyrone Tracy. It looks like they focused in on him at least early, or at least tried to early. 19 for 88, 4.6 yard average. Tracy and Singletary was a pretty good 1-2 punch. Now, it's Scadaboo's room, if you will, but obviously you have to press on without key guys. So again, Giants focused on that running game, and they did a pretty good job, actually.
Yeah. By the way, I hate that it's Scadaboo's room. I love him as a running back too. I don't need it to be his room. Right. But I get it. With Tyrone Tracy, look, like I think that he's been a talented runner. I don't think that's ever really been a question. I mean, it's just protecting the football is huge for him, and I'm glad that he did that in this game because that's something that for a lot of his career he hasn't done. And I also think that Devin Singletary, like he fought. That's all that was. Devin Singletary averaged 2.8 yards per carry, and 2.1 of them came after contact. Like he just fought for that yard, every single yard. So that was big for Devin Singletary. And look, Devin Singletary is also going to have that number because he was the one taking the snaps on the 4th and short on the goal line carries. Like that was him. He was handling that duty. This is a running back room that they don't have a ton of dynamic playmaking ability right now. There was one carry that I think of that went longer than 10 or 15 yards. Everything else was just short, keeping you ahead of the sticks, and that's all that mattered. But this is a rushing attack that I do think offensive line needs to be better there. But the running backs, like they made the most of what was available to them. Like Tyrone Tracy, 89 yards, 62 after contact. Devin Singletary, 44 yards, 33 after contact. Like that's them doing most of the work at that point. That's And ideally, yeah, you got guys that are getting some yards after contact, but a ton of yards total because offensive line puts you in a good spot. That didn't really happen. Part of that is because you ran duo so frequently, and that just muddies things up at times. But this is a running back room where both of those guys can go out there and perform. And I'm comfortable with both of them being out there. I wouldn't want them to be my franchise back, but I'm comfortable with Tyron Tracy and Devin Singletary kind of leading the way on the ground for the rest of the season.
Mark, your thoughts? Go ahead.
Did you guys see when it was Singletary's first touchdown, and the play before he scored, Singletary likes to bounce stuff outside. He wants to get outside on the edge. So the ball was on a 6-yard line or whatever, and the Giants run a play with the defensive lineman in the backfield, 94
Chapman.
Yeah, he's in the backfield, and they run the play to the Giants' left, and he hits the ball, kicks the blocker out, and Singletary bounces outside. 94 turns to him, looks at him. He goes, "Man, stay inside, stay inside." He's telling them this. He goes this. They come back and run the same play. Singletary cuts inside of the block, makes a touchdown. So I say that simply because of this. You have two different backs. You throw Scatterboo in there as well. Tracy does not mind, an old term, sticking his face in the fan, getting up in there. Singletary does. He doesn't want that part of the business. He wants to bounce stuff out, and if we all know Scatterboo doesn't give a damn, he's gonna stick his face wherever it goes. So you have three different style of players. But we're dealing with the two now, Tracy and Singletary. So they can make the best out of both of them, but I just think Singletary, once he really learns, and he's been in the league for a while, I should know this, know what is presented to him and just be patient and stop bouncing stuff outside, because if he waits just a half a second longer and waits for the blocking to materialize, he'll be very effective. So, the Giants' run game is what it is right now because the offensive line and whatever. But is it manageable? Is it good? It's very decent. If that, and I'm really stretching that word decent. But these are the two guys you got. So you got to ride that horse until the legs fall off.
I think, Brandon, I'm guessing Kafka's scripted the beginning of the game, not necessarily individual plays, but we're going to win the toss. If we do, we're going to take it. We're going to score. It's exactly what happened, despite the fact that, and I agree with you, should have deferred, but it's exactly how they planned it to a T, and yet they still lost.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the fun thing about scripted drives. Scripted drives, a lot of coaches are really good at them. But where you find out if you're actually a good play caller or not is after that scripted drive. You put that scripted drive out. And look, some coaches will say, hey, we're not necessarily doing this first scripted drive to score every single time. We want to put something out on film so that they'll see it and they'll make an adjustment when we give them the same look, and then we'll do something different this time around. But, that scripted drive is great to score a touchdown on. It really is. And I understand the sentiment of saying we're going to take the ball, we're going to score, we're going to set the tone. It's not what I would have thought, just because that middle eight is so important and you can put yourself in a really bad spot. But I think that they spent time clearly building this script early on. They did set the tone. It just sucks when you don't continue doing that at that point. But yeah, I think that Mike Kafka, he did a great job setting the game plan. I don't know exactly what that process looks like now. I know a lot of teams have the head coach, the OC, QB coach, like they'll have a bunch of guys in there. I don't know what that process looks like now that Brian Daboll's out and Mike Kafka is in charge. So props to whoever put that script together. I wish there were more capitalizing off of it afterwards. I'm also a fan of seeing things on the opening drive and then just adding a little bit of a tweak to it later on in the game, that especially if the play works. I don't know how much of that we saw, but Hey, hell of an opening script for the offense.
Here's how that works. I'm going to take what both of you just said and go to a deeper dive by me playing. Every drive offensively is scripted, and we all know that. From a defensive perspective, we know if we can survive that first 15 scripted, 20 scripted drives, plays, whatever, fine. The bigger tell in football on the professional level of winning teams or well-coached teams is that second half, the adjustments you make. Because we all know defense, that first 15 or 20 plays is going to be whittled down to maybe 5 to 10 plays in the second. They're going to take those plays and go, okay, what do we have success on? And how can we add more plays to that or take plays out to make it work? So that's how that usually works. So and you notice this game, when Green Bay survived, when the Giants scored that first touchdown on the scripted plays, okay, cool. Green Bay came back second half, kind of stopped the Giants' offensive momentum. But when Green Bay got the ball, that second half, they moved the ball pretty damn well. They threw the ball, a lot of other stuff. That was not on the first 10 scripted plays on their first possession in the first half. So when you look at the totality of this whole game, you've seen the better coaching staff win the game. Not the better players, even though the roster was better, more tilted for the Packers than the Giants, but the way the coaching staffs handled that second half was clearly in Green Bay's favor.
Interesting. All right, we'll take one more break, a real quick one, and then we have to look at the schedule. As we've done multiple times this year, we'll try and find another giant win. We'll do that next. All righty then. Final block of the show. As we said, it comes after a Giant loss, 27-20. Next up, the Lions. Now, the Lions are a much better team at home. That being said, Brandon, the Lions are better than the Giants. Answer the question, and then I'm going to look at the line.
Not happening. Just I think that's exactly what I can tell you is
10.5. 10.5.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, that's fair. Because also like this isn't a Giants team that has typically been blown out a ton, right? They had their loss to the Cowboys was by 3, lost to the Broncos by 1, lost to the Niners was by 10 or so, and that one felt further. This loss by 7, last week by 4. Eagles blew you out. Every other game, was a couple of scores, which isn't a fun spot to be in at all either. But yeah, I think that's a fair line. I'll probably bet for the Lions to cover it. I'll tell you that much. But who knows also, we don't know what this offense is going to look like without the weather permitting. And I'm not trying to like harp on the wind or the cold or anything, but I am going to say that in Detroit, that's not going to be a factor. And so maybe you do see this offense take more shots downfield. Maybe. I don't know if we will, and I have no idea if we'll be successful, but maybe you get to see them take the top of the defense a little more, and also we have no idea about Jackson Dart's status for next week.
All right. As we said, Lions, then it's a Monday nighter, and we discussed this on Thursday, Mark. The country is going to be quite upset with the Giants in primetime, especially without the 3 guys you want to see in Neighbors, Dart, and Scatterboo. That being said, and by the way, the Patriots have been great this year. Mm-hmm. Lions and Patriots, these are not easy.
No, not at all. And Detroit got a lot to play for, the NFC North, and clearly the superior team. And then you got the Patriots. And, I think I think the league is kind of kicking themselves in the butt by taking away that flex schedule stuff. I think they're kind of regretting that. And I wish they probably think, well, can we do this on Monday? But they can't. Anyway, no, but I tell you, Detroit, they're humming. They look good. I mean, a lot of weapons, great coaching staff. Giants, not so much. But, these guys are professionals. And my thing with the Giants and Lions game is I'm glad watching this game that I didn't see the Giants quit. There was a lot of fight, a lot of drive, a lot of determination. And it was the game could have went either way. I hope to see that against the Lions as well. Remember, these guys are professionals. They get paid a lot of money. We all know that. But one thing you never want to get is embarrassed. Get shown up by on national TV, embarrass your family, your fans, and your organization. And hopefully that doesn't happen.
All right, Brandon, I'm looking at weeks 15 through 18. This is, again, right after the bye for the Giants. So they'll be well rested for Washington and Minnesota, both at home, in Vegas, and then Dallas at home. I can't believe I'm about to say because I've been so down all year long. But there's a chance for multiple wins there.
Yep. Fun fact, there's also a chance for no wins. Which is also really fun with the team. Because look, a bye week's great, right? But I don't think these guys are going to get significantly better during a bye week. And we already know some guys that aren't going to come back healthy after that bye week. Malik Neighbors ain't showing up, and Cam Scatterbo ain't walking through that door ready to go. He might want to. He's psychotic enough where he might want to walk through that door ready to go. But he's not going to be cleared to do that, of course. Commanders, Jaden Daniels should still be out. I know that they've said there's a chance he'll come back this season. It probably wouldn't be week 15. It'd probably be 17 or 18. So Commanders, definitely a chance, especially because that game's at home. So you have that. Vikings, going to be really interesting. Brian Flores has been maybe the best defensive schemer in football this year. Or at least he's up there, we'll say, with Jesse Minter, with Mike McDonald, like he's up there. So we'll see how Jackson Dart handles that, because that is not easy for a rookie to go up against with that very complex defense. Raiders, I think the Raiders game is the one game where I think you should win that game.
Yeah, you've been saying that all season long, too.
Maybe.
You circled that game from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's the one game where I look at it and I go, you should win that game in the back half of the schedule. Cowboys, probably not. I mean, Dak's playing some great football right now. Unless that changes, he's probably going to torch the secondary.
All right, Mark, let's go big picture now as we close things out. I'm just thinking what the message is from Kafka to the team, and assuming the players think that Kafka isn't going to be back, it's almost like it's a lame duck situation. I wonder if there's some communication problems when that situation arises.
No, there are no communications. Every player and coach, they already know they're all independent contractors right now. They're playing for their jobs, not just with the Giants, but for another team. So there's no message other than he may say, gentlemen, don't embarrass yourself, play hard, whatever. That kind of speech. There's no win one for the Gifford speech coming for the Giants. That ain't happening.
It wouldn't do any good anyways.
No, these guys are playing for themselves and the organization, and hopefully they'll be around next year and maybe go to another team. That's it. That is it. And don't get hurt.
Right. Seriously. Right. Don't get hurt. It's weird though, because there has to be, when you're 50 guys or however many guys, if you include the practice squad, 60 guys, however many, they know that this is tumultuous and a team in turmoil, an organization in turmoil with a sick owner. So who knows what the immediate future brings to these guys? I'm never saying they're not going to play hard, Brandon, but it has to be weird.
I'm sure it's weird, but end of the day, do you like to keep making millions of dollars to play football? Yeah, then you better work your ass off out there, because I don't care who you are, I don't care how good you are. There's going to be plenty of front office members, whether that's a GM, assistant GM, scout, whatever that may be. Plenty of coaches that are going to see you slacking off and go, I want nothing to do with that guy. Like, I don't want anything to do with that guy. Even a guy that, is worse but playing harder, I'll take him. He'll do his job. He'll play special teams. He'll try to fit the run. He'll handle that. So yeah, if you like being a professional football player, you better keep playing your ass off here. That's the thing I always hate too, when fans start talking about like, why are they winning this game? We need this draft pick. And it's just like, well, because they're still getting paid millions of dollars to go out there and play their hardest and try to win games, and they want to keep doing that. So like, we could sit here and go, why would you win that game? This is stupid. Like, you're an idiot if you do that. I just want to throw that out there. Yeah, I just want to throw that out there. You're an idiot if you do that. You could say that you wish they lost the game, but to go, why would you win that game? You're an idiot.
No one plays the tank. No.
Yeah. There's no. And also, you don't want to set the mentality of, oh yeah, like, losing is fine because we're going to get a better draft pick if we lose. You don't want to set that loser mentality. Once you're a loser, you're probably always a loser. But I do think that, these guys, they're going to have to keep playing hard. They better keep playing hard. And a lot of these guys are, the star players, I think, are the guys who wouldn't take that anyway. Like, I can't see people slacking off and some of the leaders on this team accepting that. I do think there's also, with a guy like Jackson Dart, I genuinely think that does motivate people to try to play harder, because you want to be here. Like if you're bought into Jackson Dart's success and you're bought into what he can be, you want to be around for that. Like if you feel like they found their franchise QB, I feel like you should want to play harder so that you're kept around whenever that does swing up, because this has been a really brutal, decade and a half for Giants fans. But this is the first time in that decade and a half where at least I feel like you've truly got a future franchise quarterback in your organization. And I do think that really matters, because like you've got the future franchise quarterback. You put the pieces around him and everything else will elevate. And I do think that for a lot of guys, that's really important. I could be dead wrong. I never strapped it up on an NFL field, so I could be dead wrong. But I would imagine that does matter when you go, all right, like, we got our QB. We don't have to sit out here and watch, Tommy DeVito try to lead this offense. We know he's not the answer. Like, you don't have that. Now you go, we're pretty sure we do have the answer. And that matters a lot for this roster, for this front office, coaching staff coming in, for everything.
There's an interesting, I guess, internal battle with Kafka here. Does he rush back Dart to try and win games so that he's not the interim anymore, the full-time head coach? Or does he let him get healthy? I think there's a difficult internal struggle there, Mark.
I think it's more than that. I think they don't rush him back. I think the Giants brass will look at the whole totality of the last 5, 6, 7 games, whatever, and base it on that. I think they know that Dart is the guy. They've seen enough to know that he's the guy to move forward with. They need to see the management skills of Kafka. And is he willing to make changes on the coaching staff? Those two of the three things I think the Giants ownership are looking for. The number one thing I'm thinking is, will they bring Shane back to help Kafka find the players that he needs to be successful? That's it. I think Dart, even if he's healthy, don't play no more. We've seen enough. I want to see if Kafka has the management skills to run an organization, a team, to buy into what his system is to win. That's it.
All right. It's a 27-20 loss. What else is new? We do this every single week after a Giant loss. It's the New York Giants Squad Show. Of course, we are alongside Mark Collins and Brandon Olson. It's been fun. I wish one of these comes after a win. I mean, it did happen about a month ago. But again, we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll also see you Thursday as we preview week 12 already in the NFL. Giants are in Detroit for the Lions. Again, for Brandon and Mark, I'm Jay. Have a wonderful Sunday night.